Hello, you are watching Red Flag Radio. Enjoy watching.
Hey everyone. I honestly never thought I'd be one of those guys posting here, but here I am. I, 34 years old, have been married to my wife, Megan, 32 years old, for 7 years. We met in college, did the whole high school sweetheart cliche thing, and for the most part our marriage has been stable. Or so I thought. Lately, though, something's been off. She used to be affectionate, always texting me little things during the day, making plans for weekends. About 3 months ago, she started becoming distant. Not in a loud, obvious way, but in small, cutting shifts. She'd roll her eyes when I asked about her day, her phone became a permanent extension of her hand, and she started going out for girls' nights more frequently. At first, I told myself it was just a phase, maybe work stress or personal stuff she wasn't ready to share, but deep down, I felt it. This gnawing sense that I was being pushed out of my own marriage. And I ignored it for a while. I wish I hadn't. The first real red flag hit about 6 weeks ago. Megan told me she was going out with her friend Sarah for drinks. Totally normal, she's done that before. But later that night, around 11:30 p.m., I get a random notification from our shared Uber account. Megan's drop-off location wasn't Sarah's apartment or any bar I recognized. It was some random apartment complex across town. I called her, and she didn't pick up. 10 minutes later, she texted, "Can't hear you, music too loud. Everything's fine, don't worry." When she got home around 2 a.m., I asked her about it. She didn't even blink, just rolled her eyes and said, "Oh my God, you're being paranoid. Sarah wanted to meet up with some people she knows, and we are only there for a little bit. You really need to stop overthinking everything." Something about the way she said it, like I was an idiot for even asking, really stuck with me. That's when the pit in my stomach started to grow. About a week later, Megan had one of her girls' nights. I was sitting on the couch, watching TV, when her iPad, when she never uses anymore, pinged with a notification. She must have forgotten it was still synced to her phone. It was a text from a guy named Eli. The message just said, "Can't wait to see you again. Last night was wow." My stomach dropped. I froze, staring at the screen. I didn't want to believe it. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe I was misreading things. But my hands were shaking when I unlocked the iPad and scrolled. There it was, a thread full of flirty messages, late-night meetups, and one that burned into my brain. I hate having to sneak around. Wish we could just be together without all the drama. I just sat there, numb. The room spinning. Part of me wanted to throw the iPad across the room. Another part wanted to wait, gather more, not let her know I knew yet. I decided to say nothing that night. I thought I could keep it together, maybe collect more proof before confronting her, but I'm not that good of an actor. The next morning, she breezed into the kitchen, all cheerful, like nothing was wrong, and kissed me on the cheek. I flinched. She noticed. "What's your problem?" she snapped, already annoyed. I almost blurted everything right then, but instead I asked casually, "How was girls' night?" She didn't even look up from her phone. "Fine, same old." "Why?" I wanted to scream, because I know you weren't with Sarah, because I saw his texts, but I swallowed it. I couldn't do it yet. That day at work, I couldn't focus. My mind kept replaying those messages. Every laugh she shared with me, every "I love you," suddenly felt cheap and rehearsed. I felt like a stranger in my own marriage. That night when she announced she was going to the gym, something inside me snapped. I decided to follow her. I waited about 5 minutes after she left, then grabbed my keys and followed her car. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. She always told me the gym was about 15 minutes away, but after 10, she took a completely different turn, heading straight toward that same apartment complex from the Uber notification. I parked a couple buildings down, keeping my lights off, and watched her pull into the lot. She didn't even hesitate, just hopped out of the car, phone in hand, and practically skipped up the stairs. A guy, tall with dark hair, opened the door. She kissed him. Not a polite, hey friend kiss, a full-on, hands-on-his-face kind of kiss. I felt my stomach twist. I wanted to storm up there, demand answers, but I froze. It was like watching my entire life fall apart in real time, and I couldn't even move. I drove home in silence, gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles were white. I knew what I saw. There was no talking my way out of it. I had to confront her. She came home around midnight, all sweaty, like she'd actually been to the gym. I was sitting on the couch, lights off, waiting. "How was your workout?" I asked, my voice calmer than I felt. She jumped, then forced a laugh. "Geez, you scared me." "It was fine. Why are you sitting in the dark like a creep?" I stood up. "I followed you, Megan." Her face froze. "What are you talking about?" "Don't. I saw you. At his apartment." For a second, she just stared at me, then scoffed. "Oh my God, are you serious right now? I was meeting Sarah there. She's dating that guy. I can't believe you're stalking me. This is insane." Every word felt like a dagger. She was still lying, even with the truth hanging in the air between us. "I saw you kiss him," I said, my voice cracking. That finally wiped the fake indignation off her face. She crossed her arms, glaring. "You know what? Maybe if you paid attention to me, I wouldn't have to look elsewhere." I think that hurt worse than catching her in the act. The room erupted. I don't even remember everything I said, just that I was yelling and my hands were shaking. On her other hand, she stayed weirdly calm at first, then suddenly flipped it back on me. "You're pathetic, you know that? Sneaking around, following me like some psycho. No wonder I can't stand being around you lately." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "I caught you cheating, Megan, and you're blaming me?" She rolled her eyes so hard it made my blood boil. "Oh, please, don't act like our marriage was perfect. You're boring, you never want to do anything, and I'm supposed to just sit here and rot? I have needs too." I was stunned. It wasn't even remorse, just a laundry list of excuses. When I pressed her, she laughed in my face, laughed, and said, "It's not a big deal, it's just fun. You're overreacting." Something in me snapped at that. I couldn't take the gaslighting anymore. I told her to pack a bag and leave. She refused, saying, "This is my house too. You can't kick me out just because you're insecure." By the end of it, I was shaking so hard I had to lock myself in the bedroom just to keep from saying something I'd regret. I barely slept that night. I could hear her in the living room, talking on the phone in hushed tones, laughing occasionally like nothing had happened. Every laugh felt like a punch to the chest. By morning, she acted like the whole thing was over. She came into the bedroom, tossed her hair, and said, "So, are you done with your little meltdown? We need to talk like adults." I just stared at her. My whole world had crumbled, and she was treating it like a minor argument about dishes. I asked her point blank if she was going to end things with him. She smirked and said, "Why should I? You clearly don't make me happy anymore. Maybe if you actually tried, we wouldn't be here." It was like she enjoyed twisting the knife. I told her I needed space and left for a drive, but the truth is, I just sat in the car for 2 hours, numb. I kept replaying every moment of our relationship in my head, wondering how long she'd been lying, how many times I'd been made a fool. When I finally came back, she was gone. No note, no text, nothing. When she didn't come home that night, I finally broke. I tore through everything. Our shared phone bills, her laptop, even the junk drawer where she used to dump receipts. What I found made me sick. There were dozens of texts hidden under a fake contact name going back months. Late-night meetups, hotel reservations, even a weekend trip she claimed was for work training. She'd been lying to my face so long I couldn't tell where the truth started anymore. I even found charges for expensive gifts, designer cologne, concert tickets, none of which were for me. She was spending our money on him. Every discovery felt like a fresh betrayal. I wasn't just losing my wife. I realized I'd already lost her months ago, maybe even longer. I took pictures of everything, forwarded every message to my own email. If she wanted to keep lying, I was going to have the truth in my hands. And then, at 3 a.m., she finally texted, "Staying at Sarah's, don't wait up." I didn't even bother replying.
The next morning, I confronted her with the screenshots. I laid my phone on the table, scrolling through the messages, hotel bookings, and all the "I miss you" texts. Her face didn't even flicker with guilt. Instead, she crossed her arms and said, "Wow, you really went through all my stuff? That's a new level of pathetic, even for you." I couldn't believe it. This is what you have to say? Not an apology? Not even an explanation? She shrugged. "What do you want me to say? You already decided I'm the villain, so fine. Maybe I am. But you're not some innocent victim here. You were never enough for me, and I just stopped pretending." It was like she was trying to get me to hate her, to make walking away easier for herself. I told her I wanted her out of the house by the end of the week. She laughed in my face. "You think you can just kick me out? Please, good luck with that." I realized then that I was done fighting. The woman I married was gone, replaced by someone I didn't recognize. That day, I called a lawyer. I didn't even tell her right away. I just quietly started the process of filing for separation. The lawyer advised me to secure my finances first, so I moved most of our savings into an account with only my name on it and froze our joint credit card. Turns out she'd racked up thousands on things I never even knew about. When I finally told her, she scoffed. "You're really going through with this? Over a fling? You're unbelievable." I told her it wasn't a fling. It was months of lying, cheating, and gaslighting. She rolled her eyes and said, "You're so dramatic. Fine, do whatever you want. I'll land on my feet." There was no begging, no remorse, just pure arrogance. And in that moment, something in me finally clicked. I wasn't losing the woman I loved. She'd been gone a long time. For the first time in weeks, I felt relief.
Breaking the news to our friends and family was brutal. At first, I didn't want to tell anyone. I felt humiliated, like I had failed. But I couldn't keep lying, not when people kept asking why Megan and I weren't showing up together anymore. When I finally told my parents, my mom cried, and my dad just shook his head. They'd always suspected something was off lately, but didn't want to interfere. My closest friends were furious on my behalf. A couple of them admitted they'd seen her out with some guy months ago, but didn't want to start drama. The worst part was Megan's reaction. She went on social media and painted me as the villain, posting cryptic quotes about toxic men and choosing happiness. Mutual friends started texting me, confused and asking if I really couldn't handle a strong woman. It was like being cheated on all over again, except now I was fighting to keep my own reputation. I realized then, the only way to win was to walk away and stop giving her any more of my energy. Once the papers were filed and she officially moved out, the silence in the house hit me like a freight train. I thought I'd feel nothing but relief, but instead it was this hollow ache, like the echoes of the life I thought we had were still rattling around inside these walls. I cycled through every emotion imaginable: anger, sadness, betrayal, even guilt. I'd wake up some mornings ready to text her good morning before remembering she wasn't mine anymore. She hadn't been for a long time. Therapy helped. So did talking to friends who reminded me that none of this was my fault, no matter how many times she tried to twist the story. Still, I'd find myself scrolling through old photos, wondering when exactly she'd stopped loving me, or if she ever really had. The worst part? Some nights I'd dream of us laughing together, waking up for a split second believing everything was okay, only to have reality crash down again. But little by little,
the weight started to lift. I started focusing on myself for the first time in years. I hit the gym, reconnected with old friends, and even took a solo weekend trip just to clear my head. Every day that passed, the hold Megan had on me loosened a little more. The divorce process dragged on. She fought me on everything. Even tried to get spousal support despite the evidence of her cheating. My lawyer handled most of it, reminding me to stay calm and not get sucked into her drama. I also set hard boundaries. No late-night texts, no just checking-in calls. She tried to bait me a few times with messages like, "You'll regret this," or "We could still fix us if you just try." I didn't bite. I'd finally accepted that the woman I married didn't exist anymore. For the first time in a long time, I started to feel like myself again. Not the guy constantly second-guessing if his wife was lying, but someone free to build a future that didn't include her. Looking back now, I can't believe how blind I was. I ignored red flags because I didn't want to face the truth, that the person I trusted most had already checked out of our marriage long before I caught her cheating. If there's anything I've learned, it's this: trust your gut. If something feels wrong, it probably is. Don't let anyone gaslight you into doubting what you know in your bones. And never set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. I'm not going to pretend I'm over it completely. There's still days when the anger flares up, or I catch myself wondering if I could have done something differently. But deep down, I know I made the right call walking away. For anyone reading this who's in a similar situation, gather your proof, protect your finances, and value your own peace above all else. You can't force someone to love you the way you deserve, but you can choose not to let them keep hurting you. I'm finally free, and for the first time in a long time, that feels like enough.